It's a long, probably answer for you, Matt. Listen, I'm a passionate person. I don't think that's new on anybody. And do I regret that? Probably the biggest regret is I probably put pressure on the wide receiver group when I reacted in that way because I felt like they were being picked on unfairly. And if you remember, not trying to rehash what happened, but I was going, man, we had, the number 2 scoring offense, and we were just, we had some tweaks there. It wasn't the exact same group, but it was a similar group that we thought, an addition here or there. Even when I did that interview, I knew we were adding Elijah Moore later that day. And so it was probably more of a reaction to, we just had a draft of defensive guys that we thought could help this team get over the top, and it was more in the defense of that group. Do I regret how it's turned out? Sure. It was not meant to be condescending. It was me having a little bit of too much passion, I guess, if you want to say, hey, I shouldn't have done that. At the end of the day, it wasn't, I had nothing against those hosts. I think I did another interview with those guys. I've done them before. I did it at training camp when the next opportunity was. So it wasn't anything personal or anything like that. It was just more coming to the defense of our players because I felt like they were being picked on and they couldn't defend themselves at that point.
Brandon, to further that though, the wide receiver position has been an issue with this team, and a lot of people out there believe you have failed in the free agent market, and then obviously with the Keon Coleman signing, which hasn't worked out. How do you answer the fact that you have not given Josh a good enough wide receiver room thus far?
Yeah, I mean, can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
Brandon,
Can you finish that answer, Brandon, on the receiver room though?
Yeah. At the end of the day, Sal, some of it is the evolution of how you build your roster. If you look back to, let's go to the 2020, 2021, those before we paid Josh, okay, we made the move for Stephon Diggs, obviously paid him, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, drafted Gabe Davis. We were in a lot of 10 personnel. The game changes, it evolves. Some things don't change, but some things do. And so the league at that time was, and what our coaches asked for back when Brian Dable was here, was to spread things out, okay? We want to spread these guys out and get mismatches. Well, then defenses started saying, okay, we're going to get smaller and more athletic, so we're going to bring things in. You've seen the last couple of years, we've been in with more tight ends on the field, running the ball more. So there's just different iterations of how you score points. And you have to, when you're paying Josh what you're paying him now versus what you were paying him in 2020, 2021, 2022, you got to make some sacrifices. And where we pick, we're not picking at the top, okay? When you say free agency, like, I'm not sure what players that we could have acquired, that I've got to be able to afford them, okay? So you're making selections. The number one thing I always want to do with Josh Allen is protect him, okay? We've had an O-line that's gotten better and better, that also helped us have a leading rusher this year. And so we want to be two-dimensional. We want to be balanced. If you look at some of the things offensively, numbers-wise, how we rank I think a year ago we were 2, this year maybe we dropped 1.5 points, we were 4th. I want number 1 receivers everywhere, I do. But I also want to make sure, I mean, there's teams out there with number 1 receivers that haven't made it as far as we do. Maybe because their O-line's not as good, maybe because they made concessions on defense or other areas. You gotta kind of make some concessions. But I promise you, we're looking. And to the point, I think it came up at the trade deadline when I came in here. We talked about some of the players that we tried to acquire. We're always trying to acquire them. Can I do better? Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Brandon, at the